If you play Warhammer the Old World and you play Bretonnia, you probably want to start questing knights like I do. GW's offerings come in 2 blister packs, the command stand as well as this blister of regular questing knights. I ordered both these blisters from Golden Rhino Games in Ypsilanti, my favorite hobby store, for about $60 a pop. But these only come up to 6 knights, which if you do play Bretonnia, you know that in order to form a lance formation, you need 6 for a small unit or 10 for a large one. This would mean you would need 4 extra knights, but the blister only comes with 3, and a blister of 3 is fairly expensive. One way around this is to have a box of Knights of the Realm on foot, as well as Knights of the Realm on horseback. These 2 sets will allow you to build 20 knights on foot with swords and shields, and leave you with a bunch of leftover double-handed weapons. The Knights of the Realm on horseback kit will allow you to build at least 1 unit of 6 knights, with another 6 left over. You will repurpose 4 of those as questing knights. You'll want to build them on horse with the lower torso, but you want to stop there. You'll want to remove the upper torsos, but do not do anything with them yet. We're going to be cutting them up a little bit and kit bashing them into questing knights. Questing knights look better without helmets on. There are several heads in the knight kit that do not have helmets. You can remove those and use them. In my case, I have a lot of spare bits from my Stormcast Eternals days, and I'm going to be using heads from some of the Stormcast Eternals that look like a good fit for questing knights. Let's start with the upper torsos. The first thing you want to do is cut off the left arm over here. These models are not going to be carrying shields, they're going to be carrying double-handed weapons. These arms are pretty beefy, so using a good pair of hobby snippers like this will allow you to cut them off a lot easier. Go ahead and cut off the arm as well as the hand this way. Now very carefully use a hobby knife and then just go ahead and cut away any of the remaining excess of these areas. You can also use a file if you want to make it look a little bit better, but once you're done, these torsos are going to look like they're armless, and they will be ready to accept the double-handed weapons that come afterwards. Your best friend for this kit bashing project is a good plastic glue, not super glue. And you will see why in a little bit. In the meantime, go ahead and attach all the torsos that you had trimmed off onto the lower torsos and the horses. Once they are done, they will look like this. If you're using other heads for this project, for instance, I'm using Stormcast Eternals heads like I showed you earlier, you're going to need to trim off the areas around the neck area. A lot of times these heads that you get from your parts bin don't automatically fit the torso. You're going to want to do a little bit of dry fitting to see how it works, and then once you're satisfied with it, go ahead and glue it in place with some plastic glue. If you do need to fill in any gaps, you can use something called sprue glue, which I will show you how to make in the upper right hand corner of the screen. The sprue glue, if you formulate it correctly, will be very useful for a long amount of time, and you can just brush it onto the areas that you want to cover gaps with. Next, we will mount the double-handed weapons. You'll want to use the instruction manuals to know which parts you want to cut out. They are paired very specifically with each other, so make sure to cut out the right ones as you work on them. You'll want to go ahead and just remove them from the sprue, and I would remove one set at a time, don't mix them up. For the arm bits, you'll want to remove this little nub over here with your hobby knife. Go ahead and carefully cut it off so that it's nice and flat like this. And then after that, you'll want to use some plastic glue on the shoulder joints and then place those arms onto the torso. Be careful that the left arm goes on the left shoulder and the right on the right shoulder. This part is fairly important. You want to make sure that the plastic glue is still somewhat wet, and then while everything is still somewhat movable, put the two-handed weapon onto the arms and then slowly adjust it and finagle it into place until it looks just right. You can put some plastic glue in the joints just to kind of cover up any gaps, and you will repeat the process with the other 3 knights. It is worth noting that every weapon combination is going to be slightly different. The arms are going to be either up or down, and then the wrists are not always the same, so you want to make sure you eyeball it real quickly before you put them on. Dry fitting is always a good idea. The last step is to attach the shields. You should be able to find this in your Knights pack. Go ahead and snip off these little straps on the back of the shields and then carefully trim them off over here so that they're nice and flat. And then after that, using some plastic glue, I usually put them either on the back of the rider like this, on the sides of your horses, on either side, and so on, just to give them variety. After this step, your 4 new questing knights should be ready to join the lance formations of your Bretonnian army. After you put some paint on them, of course, which I will cover in my future tutorials. Here are a few views of all the knights completed. so you can see all the details all the way around. Thank you for watching, and I hope this was useful for you. Please join me for other Bretonnian videos which will be coming up soon. Until then, happy hobbying.